whatever you do, do not cut or disturb anything on the thrust button. Don't dent your cam cover. You know, don't do anything like that until after you've measured everything. Of course, all of this can be eliminated by going to an aftermarket two-piece cover with an adjustable stop for the thing. Also, Mancini Racing makes a one-piece lock plate, cam button, and could get you all of the materials to do this in one piece. I'm choosing to kind of do it the old-fashioned way, which is using the stock cover and individual parts that you can get. We can see right here the height of the button, and you'll notice the good thing is it's well above where our 3 bolts are, so we know that our 3 bolts that hold the cam are not going to be anywhere near the cover, so that's a good thing. Next, we're going to measure the height of the clay as carefully as you can. And again, this is just a rough, this gives you a rough idea of where you want to be. So I'm going to go from the top of the gear, in this case, top surface of the gear, down just about even with that clay. I measured that. I'm going to sneak in all the way to the cam to make the same measurement. Okay. And 780. My overall length is 711. That means I need to add about 69 thousandths of shim behind this. So I'm going to go look around and see if I have some washers that I could stack back there. Remember, I've got the gear bolted down, so once I get the washers back there, they're not going anywhere. They're just going to sit back there. And that way, when I drive this in, it'll firmly seat against the cam without floating. In other words, I'm really concerned with this thing floating in there if I don't put something behind it to act as a stop. Okay, so we will pick it up a little bit later after I go find the right washers stack up, and I'm going to also trim this down a little bit on the outside diameter to take some of the interference out of it. So more later. We'll see how it goes. Back with you after much machine work, a little bit, and some assembly work. I now have the spacer press fit onto the end of the bushing, and I've got the outside diameter turned down so it just barely slides in. And so right now we're going to do a trial fit with a little bit of clay on the end here to see what our actual clearances are. And this is where we want to make sure that we're getting the right crush on this clay. So what I'm going to do is pile a little bit of the clay around here, and you don't have to, actually that's a little too much. We don't really need it everywhere. So I'm just going to kind of roll the clay out kind of thin, because we're only looking for a few thousandths here. And we're going to stack our clay around here a little bit. And make sure we are on the top surface here. Okay. And we'll go ahead and reassemble our cover. This may be for the last time. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. 1, 2. Hopefully this will be the last time. What we're looking for is that the clay doesn't completely squash. We do get some squish, but not completely. And we're looking to see that we got about 7-8 thousandths thickness remaining approximately in the clay. And if you don't have calipers that'll go down that low, if it's hard, you can just use like a pair of feeler gauges or feeler gauge and eyeball it. You can use depth mic, you can use what I'm going to use, which is just a pair of calipers. Okay, and again, snug these up. Snugging all of them up. Okay. Take them out again. I know this gets repetitive, boring, but it's actually better time spent. And again, if you wanted to eliminate all this trial and fit, and not all of it, but at least some of it, there's several companies that make two-piece aluminum timing covers with adjustable thrust buttons that, you know, makes this job labor-wise a lot easier. You just put the cover on and use the dial indicator and adjust it. Okay, so you can see that most of the clay has squished out, which means we are very close to having no clearance. So what that's going to mean is I'm going to switch. I'm going to switch from clay over to plastic gauge because I know I'm very close. And I'm going to clean the end of this off. And what I'm going to do is, rather than grind on this surface here, I'm going to take a little bit off the back side here, and that'll allow this to sit down in there just a little better. So we'll be back. I'll be back with you after I get done taking care of that, and we'll try it again with some plastic gauge. So again, what I'm looking for is about 8 thousandths or so. Okay. After some trial and error, we finally have the right clearances and shim stack. I'll show you exactly what we ended up with. This is blue plastic gauge, and looking at the gauge, the amount of squash right there is right at between 7 and 8 thousandths according to the clearance gauge here. So that's right in the neighborhood of what we want for an optimum installation. What we ended up with, I'm going to take this out and show you, is I ended up grinding the outside diameter of this to fit easily inside the bore of the timing gear, And then to make everything line up, I've got a washer inside here, a 25 thousandths thick washer, which I'll just take out briefly to show you. That was my, added that in as a shim, and then ground the backside a few thousandths to shrink everything down and get us our clearance. And as you can see, that sits nicely in there now, freely to rotate, and the 3 bolts are well clear of this surface, so they're not going to be any danger of contacting the cover. Cover fits on, doesn't distort, and we end up with our right clearance. So all that's left to do now, I'm going to take the button out, clean it thoroughly, lubricate it, and then we'll put the cover on for keeps. And that was my way of rigging the roller thrust button and timing gear setup for the big block MOPAR. Again, using a Cloy's True Billet timing gear set, and the roller button and the camshaft are both Lunati Voodoo Cam parts. So hope this will end up being helpful to you. Thank you.